Have you ever been hit with a question so out of nowhere that it stops you dead in your tracks? Maybe you're mid-conversation, holding your coffee, feeling like a responsible adult, and then someone casually drops, "Do you really know what you think you know?" And just like that, you're spiraling. Coffee forgotten, staring into the existential void, thinking, "Do I? Do I really?" It's that kind of moment when faith feels like a cheap vase perched on a wobbly table, just begging for someone to bump into it. And when that happens, our instinct is to jump into defend mode. Walls go up, voices get loud, and suddenly faith, this beautiful transcendent thing, starts to look less like a deep-rooted truth and more like a toddler in full meltdown mode. But here's the thing. What if faith isn't fragile at all? What if instead of being a vase we desperately are trying to protect, it actually is more like a tree? Deep roots, swaying branches, strong enough to weather storms and maybe, just maybe, even grow stronger when it's tested. Now, this is where we land on one very important truth. We don't have everything figured out. Nobody does. And if someone tells you otherwise, I guarantee you they're either lying or they're selling you something. Now, here is what we do have: a long, winding, messy record of humanity wrestling with divine mystery. Scripture is full of people asking big, uncomfortable questions. It's not a clean, polished manual of perfect certainty. It's a scrapbook of humanity flailing around in the dark, trying to understand God. Sometimes they get it right. Other times, not so much. And we are no different. We're still wrestling. And that's good. Wrestling means we're alive. It means we care. Faith that refuses to be questioned isn't faith. It's fear. And if your faith is afraid of one single question, it's already on shaky ground. So when the questions shake us, when certainty feels miles away, what do we hold on to? Now here's where we get to the heartbeat of this whole thing: love, justice, and mercy. Let's talk about Jesus for a second, because whether you believe he was God, fully human, or some mystery in between, you can't deny that he nailed that love, justice, mercy aspect. He didn't spend his time defending abstract ideas. He didn't walk around clutching a theological shield, swatting away doubters. No, he spent time with people, messy people. He fed the hungry, he welcomed the outcasts, and regularly roasted the self-righteous religious leaders who thought that they had everything figured out. Jesus wasn't threatened by tough questions. He welcomed them. He engaged with them. He asked his followers to step up, to live with integrity, to care for the vulnerable, to practice love in ways that made people profoundly uncomfortable. But here's the tricky part. You can't wrestle with all of this alone. Faith, real faith, is a team sport. You need community, and I get it. Community is messy. It's frustrating. It's full of people who shockingly do not always agree with you. But here's why that matters. If you only hang out with people who think exactly like you, you'll never see your blind spots. You'll never grow. Truth takes shape when it's tested, when we sit with people who disagree with us, and when we realize that maybe, just maybe, we don't have the market cornered on certainty. So what does this have to do with not turning defensive? Well, everything. The next time someone asks you a hard question or critiques your faith, resist the urge to build a fortress. Don't launch into a 10-point defense of why you're definitely right and they are definitely wrong. Instead, just say something along the lines of, "You have a point there. I need to think about this carefully. I don't have all the answers, but I'm glad we're talking about this." Because here's the point. Faith isn't about winning arguments. Faith is about holding on to what's true even when you're not certain on how to implement it. It's about staying open to growth even when it's uncomfortable. So let's stop acting like faith is fragile. It's not. Faith doesn't need a fortress. It needs roots. So here's my challenge. What's one question about your faith you've been afraid to ask? Who do you need to invite into that conversation? Because the question won't break you. It might just lead you to something deeper. And if we can hold on to love, justice, and mercy as our compass, we're going to be just fine. I'm John De Hoyos. Peace, love, and tortillas.